All right, the last unbeaten is no more. Washington just beat Philadelphia on Monday Night Football. I think a lot of people were disappointed in the ending. It seems that we've had a lot of these controversial officials really protecting quarterback penalties this weekend. And I guess the penalty in the 49ers game on Dre Greenlaw wasn't controversial. It was the ejection. Either way, it ended Philadelphia's dream of an undefeated season. The 1972 Dolphins can pop champagne at the same time that they did in 2019. That's when the 49ers were the final unbeaten team in the NFL. Just like the Eagles this year, they were 8-0 and they lost on Monday Night Football in overtime to the Seahawks. Eagles didn't last quite till overtime. They lost 26-21 in regulation. But sloppy game, as I like to say, giveaways are the express lane to losses, especially upset losses if you're favored, and the Eagles were giving the ball away a lot. But in the larger scheme of things, it's time to, start taking a look at positioning because the 49ers are on the back nine. Halftime of this past game that we saw against the Chargers on Sunday was halftime of the season. It was 17 games. It's halftime of game number 9. That is the exact halfway point. And with this stretch run upcoming, and I'll say stretch run officially will be here once we have 4 or 5 games left, somewhere around there. But with that stretch run looming, I think it is time to take inventory of the standings to see where the 49ers are going to have to be as they try to jockey for position toward the finish line. And right now at 5-4, with this Eagles loss, the 49ers are 3 games behind the Eagles for the NFC number 1 seed. The Eagles 8-1, 49ers 5-4. So 3 games down, 8 to play. It's a little bit more complicated than that if the 49ers are to get this number 1 seed because there are more than just the Eagles in front of them. Here's a look at the standings. But you can see the 49ers, if the playoffs started today, here on the bottom, would be the 7 seed in the tournament for the NFC. They would just have squeaked in. Now, yeah, they already updated Philadelphia's record as well. They're 8-1, but the 49ers are 5-4. But ahead of the 49ers, you see Dallas at 6-3. That's a game up. You see the New York Giants at 7-2. That's 2 games up. Tampa Bay 5-5. Tampa Bay, obviously a division leader, NFC South division leader right now. Seattle 6-4. They're the West leader right now. Minnesota 8-1, the North leader right now, and Philadelphia, the East leader, still at 8-1. But that NFC East, through this point of the season, they have about a 70% combined winning percentage, which is the highest that we've ever seen from any division this deep into the season. That's been wild how quickly the East has turned around, but it just shows you that Philadelphia, even though they were undefeated, they lose a game, and all of a sudden, you've got the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys hot on your tail. Reminds me a little bit of 2019 when the 49ers were winning games. They're undefeated at 8-0. Then all of a sudden, the Seahawks show up, and the Seahawks weren't really losing to too many teams early in that season. And the 49ers were in a dogfight for the division as soon as they lost that game to Seattle in this week of the season. So sometimes you have the benefit of playing in a weak division. Sometimes you don't. And the Philadelphia Eagles don't look to have the benefit of playing in a weak division this year. The 49ers, though, might have that benefit. The NFC West, not as strong as really a lot of people expected, not as strong as it has been in years prior. The Rams are obviously down this year. The Arizona Cardinals aren't very good, so the 49ers need to take care of business on Monday in Mexico City. And it really is looking like that 2-horse race between the 49ers and the Seahawks, unless the Cardinals or the Rams can resuscitate here over the back half of the regular season. But those teams that I just listed, I'll put it up there one more time. Those are the teams that are ahead of the 49ers as far as record goes as the 49ers try to jockey for positioning. Why is this important? Well, if the 49ers just squeaked into the playoffs as the final wild card, they'd run into the same issue that they ran into last year, even if they were playing red hot football in January. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I don't think that the Rams beat the 49ers in the NFC Championship game last year. I think that the cumulative wear and tear of 20 total games plus 4 straight elimination games beat the 49ers. I think it caught up to them by the end of the season. I think they ran out of gas. The way to avoid that fate is to make yourself an easier path through January. And you make yourself an easier path through January right now during the regular season. You don't procrastinate. Last year, the 49ers waited until there was absolute deadline pressure. Credit to them for walking the tightrope, for winning the elimination games, beating the Rams in week 18 to get into the playoffs, and then obviously going to Dallas, winning there, going to Green Bay in the cold and winning there. But ultimately, the wear and tear of that exhausting ride. Remember, they had 12 road games last year, the 49ers did. That was an NFL record by a lot. No team had ever played 12 road games in a season. That wear and tear eventually caught up to the 49ers, and then they did lose to the Rams in the NFC Championship game. Now, how do I know? What's the proof that the wear and tear caught up to the 49ers? Well, they played the Rams 9 times here over the past few seasons, right? Including that NFC Championship game. They've won 8 of those games. The only one that they lost was at the very tail end of one of the most exhausting journeys ever. 12 road games, NFL record, 20 games in the regular season. No bye for the 49ers after what? Their bye, I think, was week 7 last year, week 6 or week 7. There was no bye from that point forward all the way to the end of January in the NFC Championship game. So it's no coincidence that they suffered that one loss in 9 tries to the Rams in the game that they were beaten up in. So we talk about this year. That's why positioning is so important. That's why losing to Denver in week 3 might hurt the 49ers. That's why you don't want to drop those winnable games early in the season. I mean, losing to Chicago week 1 as well. It's tough because when you lose some of those winnable games, you end up at the end of the regular season looking at some of this kind of stuff, and it's really crowded, and you just wish that you would have had another game or another 2 games. And the 49ers obviously do have 4 losses on their record right now. But the good news is they still have 8 to play. I mean, if the 49ers run the table, I'm not saying they will. They're 13-4, and there's a really good chance that Philadelphia loses 3 or 4 more games the rest of the way because attrition is going to catch up to all of these teams. But there are a lot of hard games on the schedule, so you just go week by week, see what you can do, improve your seeding. And I'm not saying that the number 1 seed is a realistic goal or even a necessary one to win the Super Bowl. It really boosts your odds if you can get it. But the higher you are on that pecking order means that you have a better chance of hosting a game. And it also means that you've probably taken a journey where there might be some consideration toward the possibility of resting guys around week 18, right? If they could wrap up the NFC West early and then there's no more tangible positioning to be gained, maybe you can create a little mini buy for some of your star players if you need it by week 18. Last year, the 49ers did not have that luxury throughout the course of the year. They played the high wire act. They balanced on the high wire for oh so long, but they finally fell off in the NFC Championship game. So one thing that they're going to try to do is not fall off of the high wire this time. So set yourself up with a wider high wire so you're not balancing so precariously the whole time. Anyway, it was a good Monday night game. Just wanted to come on, talk for a little bit, maybe do a little bit of a 49ers Q&A. How's everybody doing tonight? I've got some food on the way. So, oh boy, this is going to be tough. My phone is my camera, but my phone is also tracking my food order. So they said it'd be here in 10 minutes. So hopefully it doesn't come any sooner than then. And I can take a look at some of your questions for right now. The Eagles finally lose. Randall Riley says, just wait and watch the difference when the 49ers get Armstead back. It's going to be very noticeable. Absolutely. DJ Jones last year said that Eric Armstead is the most important player on the 49ers. And a lot of people were like, wait, what's he talking about? I see what he means. Eric Armstead is probably worth 10 sacks a year. And, you know, before anybody tries to get all clickbaity with this and goes and says, oh, David Lombardi says Eric Armstead's worth 10 sacks a year and he hasn't had that many sacks. since 2019. I'm not saying that he's logging 10 sacks a year himself, but his run defense makes the 49ers the top run defense in the NFL. It has every time he's been in there, right? Number one run defense in the NFL with Eric Armstead, even last year when they really struggled out of the gate. And you earn the right to rush the passer by stopping the run. You earn sack opportunities by stopping the run. So Eric Armstead's presence, the downstream effect of it, leads to sacks for other guys. Nick Bosa will be the first one to tell you this. So when Armstead comes back, if he does come back healthy, I do think you'll see a major, major impact in a positive fashion on the 49ers defense. Armstead is bigger than fans give credit. That is true. I've written entire pieces about this. I think that's the doorbell. So what's going to happen right now is I'm going to put this on mute. I'm going to go see if my food's down there. So just give me 1 second. I will be right. All right, I got my food. Camera will be back on here in just a second. So they came 10 minutes early. Shout out to Uber Eats for being early. I didn't expect it, but can't be mad at them for that. Sit back down. Hopefully people are still here. Sounds like everybody is still here. All right. What's up, everybody? I'm back. Sweet. Okay. So what were we talking about? Yeah, Armstead is more important than fans. A lot of fans do give him credit for. I'm ready to answer some questions. That's what we left off at. I'll eat after. I'll delay the eating for the food. Well, I'll delay the eating for the questions. Delay the food for the questions. What's up with Javon Kinlaw? Javon Kinlaw's got that fluid buildup in his knees. It's the tough situation coming off the ACL surgery. They're hoping to get him back off of IR, but they've got to manage it. It's a big man putting a lot of strain on that knee coming off a reconstructive surgery on the knee. He can come off of IR for the first time this next game against Mexico City. But because of the fluid buildup, they're playing at altitude. Mexico City is at nearly 7,500 feet above sea level. And that's not good for the fluid drainage. That can create some issues. So it's way more likely that he doesn't come back until after Mexico City because the 49ers are flying to Colorado Springs tomorrow. So they're going to be at altitude all week. Colorado Springs at 6,000 feet, getting ready for that Mexico City altitude. Then they fly down there. That's going to be at the 7,500 feet. When do I think Armstead will be back? If I had a guess for Armstead, I would say week 13 against, I believe they play Miami in week 13. That's a big game. I don't think they need Armstead to win the next two games. They've got Arizona coming up, and then they have New Orleans. Those are two weaker opponents, in my opinion. Then, oh boy, Miami, week 13. I would expect Eric Armstead back around then. Looking through some more questions here. I liked McGill in the Chargers game. He only had a few snaps, but he had a pressure. He got to the quarterback there on one. T.Y. McGill, especially if the 49ers continue to have some injury issues rotationally there at defensive tackle, he could be a nice pass rushing piece for the 49ers. They could use any amount of interior pressure that they can get. How many IR activations do the 49ers have? 49ers have 2 IR activations left. They're planning to use one on Kinlaw. The only other player on IR right now that would be eligible to come back, don't take this the wrong way, but that would be eligible to come back, I believe, is Trey Lance. They're not planning on Trey Lance coming back. They've ruled him out for the year, but he's eligible to come back because they didn't place him on IR before the start of the season. If you're placed there before the start of the 53-man roster cut down, you cannot come back. So I guess technically, actually, I stand corrected. Technically, Verrett and Mosley are also eligible to come back, but you see what I mean. They're not going to come back. On IR right now for the 49ers, you have Maurice Hurst, Jordan Matthews. Both of those guys hurt before the start of the season, didn't make the 53. They cannot be activated. Trey Lance, Javon Kinlaw, Jason Verrett, and Emmanuel Mosley. My cough is coming back here a little bit, so I'm probably going to call this one a little bit earlier. One more question. Why are the 49ers using Christian McCaffrey up the this is good. Yeah, Banks has been awesome. No sacks given up. But I have a question about McCaffrey that I skipped over. Why are the 49ers using McCaffrey up the middle? You have to use the entire field when you run. Outside zone, inside zone. Sometimes it's going to work better. Sometimes it's going to work worse. You have to keep the defense off balance. Right now, the 49ers run blocking hasn't been great, hasn't been consistent. So I think it's a lot of boom or bust, right? You have some bigger plays. You have some that are stuffed. They're trying to make it a more positive return throughout. So just give it some time for cohesion to flow. All right, time for me to go eat. This was just a little bonus show. Gave you guys, 15 minutes or so. Yes, I am counting the time that I went down to pick up the food, but I want to eat the food while it's still hot. Maybe join you guys in a little bit. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Hope you all have a great Monday evening. Take care.